Hey governors, I'm not up on the hottest trends, so I'm fine with talking about topics like winter. Wintertime, aka Christmas and about 89 other days. I know I normally just stick with holidays, but I thought about doing an entire season might be an interesting change of pace today. And what better place to start than with winter, the season that both starts and ends the year. Speaking of when winter is, I always found when the season happened to be weird. I always took winter as being at least most of December, but no, apparently it starts around December 21st. The amount of days of winter that happened before Christmas could be counted on one hand, which is so weird to me. It can't just be me who finds that weird, right? Right? But there's still more to talk about with winter than when it actually happens, sort of like how holidays are. This video is basically gonna be me indirectly trying to get you guys to let me talk about the other seasons too, just so I have a couple of other things to talk about when I don't have any other ideas. But still, want to talk about winter? No? Well, who cares, I already wrote the rest of this video, so let's do it anyways. Now I just want to say, a lot of things with winter sort of blend in with Christmas, like winter movies also counting as Christmas movies, winter songs also counting as Christmas songs, and many more examples. So maybe somebody could try to argue that a couple of things I talked about today fall closer to Christmas than winter, but I feel like as long as I don't delve into explicit Christmas territory like Santa Claus or Die Hard, then I believe we're good. Alright, we got all that cleared up? Cool, let's talk about winter now. So first off, like always, we should probably talk about movies. Yet again, I know I just talked about it, but it is a bit hard to talk about winter films and not just talk about Christmas films. There's a ton of famous and classic Christmas films like The Rankin Bass Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, Home Alone, Polar Express, any of the Grinch films, A Charlie Brown Christmas, and many more. But despite how good many of those are, we're stuck at talking about films like Frozen and Edge of Winter. This is like going to McDonald's and only ordering their salads. But I guess there are still films to talk about with the winter, so let's do it! So since I just brought up Frozen a second ago, let's start with that. I know I just used it for an example of a winter film, but does it really count? I mean, all that it has really going for it for being a winter film is that it has a ton of snow in it, even though the film actually takes place in the summer. If all a film needs to be a winter movie is to have snow, then screw it, The Shining is the best winter film of all time. And hey, The Shining at least actually takes place during the winter, so yes, Frozen is actually a worse winter movie than The Shining. Come on, The Shining is great for the winter time. It's totally about a family getting to know each other better and them loving and caring for each other so much. And if you want to argue that The Shining is too violent to be a winter film for some reason, well, so are most films I was able to find. For every single winter film I was able to find like Ice Age, I found another 30 films like Snowpiercer and A Thing. It always brings out the winter feeling when I see a bunch of huskies having fun in films. I hope they all have a great life. As a husky owner, that joke really hurt. But sadly, that is all I feel like I should talk about with winter films. I don't really care to talk about films like Snow Buddies or any of the 2000 Ice Age films, and any other movie I could talk about would count closer to Christmas movies like Elf or Gremlins. So before we steal talking points from me when I eventually talk about Christmas, let's move on to winter music. I think winter music is better to talk about just because there are a lot more songs just relating to wintertime than with movies. And yes, while sometimes they do still get lumped in with Christmas songs, there are just songs that are about the winter to talk about. It's just a lot harder for me to edit this section about songs because it's definitely a lot easier to just use movie clips as my visuals. God dang it. The obvious place to start with this discussion would be the song Winter Wonderland. It's the most standard winter song ever, talking about things like snow, sleigh bells, and making snowmen into circus clowns, like everybody does during the winter. But still, this is basically the All I Want for Christmas Is You song, but for the general winter season. Seems like every musical artist has covered the song at one point, so you better love it! Otherwise, I am terribly sorry for you. There's the song Let It Snow, where somebody just demands the weather to keep letting it snow. You ask the world for one thing, but instead of asking to stop world hunger or something like that, you ask it to continuously snow? Come on, bro! Also, I just want to mention I continuously associate this song with Phineas and Ferb because it was in one episode of the show. So yes, despite there being hundreds of Phineas and Ferb songs that everybody knows and loves, I still just associate Let It Snow with Phineas and Ferb. I don't know what you should take about that, but there you go! Another winter song is Baby It's Cold Outside, and boy did it age well. I was going to say that the song ended up getting steamy over time, but that's probably the worst phrasing I could have used for the song. But yeah, there's nothing I can say about Baby It's Cold Outside that hasn't been said a million times by other people, but I guess it counts as a winter song, so I should probably mention it. After that, that is all I feel like I should talk about with winter songs. Yeah, there are more, but I don't really care to talk about songs like Sweater Weather or Snow on the Beach. Not saying none of them are good, December 1963 is a banger, just gotta stop sometime. Otherwise, we'll be getting to songs like Santa Baby and there's no turning back after that. But I am at least happy there are a ton of songs for a winter season, to the point where there are a ton of winter songs that I could have talked about but just didn't. I can't say that kind of thing for things like Thanksgiving at least. So I think it's better to just move on from the songs on to other winter topics. But speaking of songs, I guess I should probably talk about Frosty the Snowman, since sure, he could be considered a mascot of winter, I guess. I was originally planning on talking about more winter characters, but all of the other ones I could find were characters like Sub-Zero from Mortal Kombat, the Ice King from Adventure Time, or just any other characters that involve ice and snow in some way. And no, I don't want to talk about characters like Santa or Rudolph because those are explicitly Christmas characters, so I guess I'll just stick with Frosty. I was going to talk about Frosty in the music section, but I felt like talking about more things with him instead of just the song, so he gets his own section, I guess. There's obviously the song to talk about, which I sadly can't make any new jokes that Ryan George didn't already make in his video about the song, so yeah, go check that video out. Just wish I made this video before that video was made, because then I would actually have material. But there's also the classic Frosty TV special, which I feel like everybody watching this video has seen at least once in their childhood, and that includes me too, obviously. But because of that, I don't know what to say about it really. It's basically what the original Frosty the Snowman song was, but with animated. Sort of like the Rankin Bass Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer special. So yes, I will say Frosty the Snowman got a better song to film adaptation than Cats did somehow. Take that as you will. Speaking of Rankin Bass though, was I the only one who didn't know the classic 2D Frosty the Snowman special was made by them until very late in their life? Like, throughout my entire childhood I didn't know they made this exact special. I'm more used to them doing their stop motion movies like Jack Frost and A Year Without a Santa Claus, that I never even considered the fact that they could have done this special. But yes, Rankin Bass did make this special surprisingly, but that's all I really have to say about it really. But you want to know some animated Frosty special Rankin Bass didn't make? There's a direct-to-video special called The Legend of Frosty the Snowman that I honestly have a bit of nostalgia for. Yeah, I'm one of the 5 people who actually watched this film when they were younger, and that probably explains why I have so many mental issues now. There's a bunch of other Frosty movies that exist, like Frosty's Winter Wonderland and Rudolph and Frosty's Christmas in July, but I don't care to talk about those. Besides, I already talked about winter movies earlier in the video, so before we make this an Antarctic Boogaloo, please laugh, let's move on. So my opinion on Frosty is that he's pretty epic, even though the ones from Wendy's taste a lot better. I also feel bad because I know as soon as Frosty enters the public domain in a couple of decades, he's going to get a horror movie made out of him. And if the Frosty horror movies are going to be anything like the other Snowman horror movies I know, we're in fact not in for a treat. Still, when Frosty does enter the public domain, I'm going to be making a movie where him and Santa fight to the death, so please be on the watch out for that in a couple of decades. Next, I feel like I should do a section all about the symbols of winter. Once again, it is a bit hard to do after excluding all the things that are solely Christmas symbolism, like gingerbread cookies and Christmas trees, but there still are some things to talk about. I just wish I didn't consider reindeer more of a Christmas thing, because I would love to find another excuse to talk about deer in some way, like when I talked about cryptids. But anyways, we did just talk about the most famous fictional snowman, so might as well just sort of talk about them right after. Do you ever think about how snowmen look really weird? Like, if somebody's body was just 3 circles, they would be considered a freak. But speaking of snow, I guess that sort of counts as a winter symbol. I mean, when else would be a better time to talk about snow? We might as well now. But snow, it's cold. Yeah, I know, crazy knowledge. But still, even though snow is probably winter's most distinctive thing about it, there isn't much to say about it. Is that really shocking? I know each snowflake is unique, but still, I can't think of much to say about them ironically enough. But you want to know something that I consider a weird icon for the winter season? Sleigh bells! I mean, winter does need something to claim as its own, but that doesn't mean claiming a random instrument. That would be like if the fall season claimed watermelons as a symbol because nobody else has done it yet. But still, I think these symbols are special things winter has to offer that doesn't go into explicit Christmas territory. Yeah, if it isn't obvious, Christmas basically dominates a lot of the winter season. Feels weird not talking about any of it right now. But I totally can't talk about it. I have to wait until I make a full Christmas video eventually. Right? Right? Alright, time to talk about Christmas! I won't be able to get my full Christmas video out this year because I was dumb and I remembered to start working on it way too late. So screw it, here's a sort of short discussion to hold you guys over to next year. Now obviously there are a lot more holidays in the winter than just Christmas, but I will be just sticking with Christmas today. But as a sort of compromise, I'll expand on a couple of sentences why I'm not talking about the other winter holidays today. For holidays like Hanukkah and Kwanzaa, I personally have never celebrated those holidays, so I would feel very weird talking about them like I knew what I was talking about. But ironically, in the opposite direction, I already made a full Valentine's Day video earlier this year, so I would feel like it would be a bit redundant to talk about Valentine's Day again. And for New Year's Eve, if all goes to plan, I should get a full video about that holiday later this month, so if I do actually finish that video, there will be no reason for me to talk about it here. And if you think there's a winter holiday I just sort of forgot to mention, don't worry, I didn't talk about it just to piss you off, so don't worry. So, I guess we're just talking about Christmas today. But still, even though we are talking about Christmas now, I still can't talk about everything relating to the holiday, like all of the movies, music, food, and even more about it, but I will give an overview on it at least. So everybody knows what Christmas is. The day where a fat Coke mascot invades nearly everybody's house except for the poor kids, and then we're all just happy about that. I mean, I know in reality Christmas is about the birth of Jesus, but we all know it's really about the fat dude I saw at the mall earlier today. And no, I'm not referring to Paul Blart Mall Cop. But boy oh boy does Christmas dominate the last couple of months of the year. Notice how I didn't even say the last 2 months of the year? Mainly because I remember doing some shopping in the middle of October this year and seeing the stores I went to already selling Christmas trees and giant nutcrackers. If you wonder why I even gave Christmas its own section in this video, then I guess you're just blind for missing how synonymous Christmas is with the entire winter season. You may find me constantly saying things like, we're not talking about Santa and elves in this video very annoying, but I found it important because of how much Christmas takes over. Hell, I literally had to talk about Frosty in this video because he's the closest to a mascot we could get if we don't count Santa, who I would consider the true mascot of the winter. But that's just because of how much Christmas dominates winter. So if you ever wonder why this video may seem underdeveloped or why the Christmas video is going to take forever, just remember how much the Christmas season covers when it's not only coming to winter, but the whole holiday season too. So that's all I felt like saying about the winter season. Yeah, it's cold and totally dominated by a certain holiday, but I still like the season. Winter is cool, and yes, that's a pun. I'm so sorry. Please feel free to unsubscribe. I know this may be a slight change of pace from the holidays I would normally talk about, but I hope you still found this video interesting regardless. If you guys would like me to do this with the other 3 seasons, I will, and I promise next time won't be dominated by a holiday like winter is. Okay, fall may be dominated a little bit by Halloween, but that's beyond the point. But still, I'm off to go throw a ton of snowballs at a bunch of unprotected children. I hope you all have a great day and have a great winter season too. Bye! Oh hey, I was able to make this entire video without making a reference to Noel holiday. That's called self-constraint.